Okay, Naomi, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to get this interview going for Horror News Network. American Horror Story has kind of taken horror TV by storm. What was it like to be on American Horror Story?
Well, it's a big show. You know, it's a really high production value with amazing talent and, you know, critical acclaim. Like, it's exciting to be a part of something that's revered and lauded, you know?
Right.
You take real pride in. So not only is it popular, it's, you know, it's well done, it's immaculately produced, it's you know, it's thrilling to be working alongside so many people that are so good at what they do. They're the best at what they do.
It's no secret that Pepper was by far one of the most popular characters of all times on the series. And I think one of the most interesting things that we'll start out with is, of course, the transformation of Naomi Grossman into the character of Pepper. Could you talk about everything you've had to go through to be from Naomi Grossman into the Pepper character?
Well, there's of course a lot of makeup involved, 3 hours worth or so. They shaved my head, and now that, you know, I've been there, done that, it's not such a big deal. But at the time, it seemed very my hair. So, you know, there's a lot of that goes into it as far as, you know, prosthetics and whatnot. But of course, you know, at the end of the day, makeup just sits on a table unless you do something with it. So, you know, I'd like to take a little responsibility, even though the makeup really does deserve all the props that it gets.
Now, how long were you in, like, how many different makeup artists did you have working on you?
There were primarily like 2 guys that would kind of, you know, split me down the side. Occasionally it would just be, you know, one at a time. This sounds, I just went dirty in my head. 2 guys at one time. Sometimes I just mix it up.
Yeah, cheerleader's dream, right?
Right. No, and you know, sometimes there'd be like a guest.
Right.
But yeah, you know, they knew what they were doing. It's not an easy makeup to do because it's seamless, you know, and it's a real condition. So unlike, you know, zombies, nothing against, you know, zombie shows, which are also super popular, but like, there aren't real zombies out there. Sorry, everybody. But, you know, so it's not like we can compare it like, oh, it looks just like a real zombie. Like, what does a zombie look like? You know, whereas this is a real condition. You can Google it and see it, and like doctor manuals. And so that's why getting the Pepper makeup really precise was so important. Because you see any seams and it's cat's out of the bag.
Throws it off.
Yeah.
Now, something I wanted to ask you, Naomi, which I find your portrayal of the character was incredible. I wanted to ask you, what kind of research went into learning how to play Pepper? Did you find out what character you're going to play, then you had to Google it, or what kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I knew that it was based off of Todd Browning's Freaks. Schlitzie, in particular, was the pinhead impression. So I really just watched him over and over and over, and the idea is that I would do him. Of course, halfway through the season, not to spoil it for anyone, but there was, you know, Pepper undergoes a mysterious change, and so then it was like, oh my god, I've got a whole new character to do, which is of course any actor's dream. But you know, I had a month or so to learn how to be, you know, silly goofy Pepper. I had, you know, a few days to learn, you know, enlightened Pepper. So that was a whole new challenge that came later.
That's pretty interesting because, you know, when people look at the character of Pepper, it's just one of those characters, although it wasn't the main character, it's probably the most memorable character. What do you, you know, what has American Horror Story done for you in terms of your popularity and kind of like your followers on social media? It's
been really amazing. I mean, obviously, social media and popularity and whatnot, it just went through, you know, through the roof. You know, I want to say that, like, my IMDb page, for example, which is, you know, a database for all actors or entertainment professionals in general. I want to say my star meter, which is a way of sort of ranking who's the most Googled or most solicited. I want to say I was like 93,000, which is like, I have a pulse in Hollywood, like barely, you know. And then I want to say, like, when the show first aired, it jumped from 93 to 3,000.
Oh man,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
90,000. And then the week after that, then it's even crazier. I went from 3,000 to 300, and now when it's 300, now you're talking about like legitimate A-listers. You know what I mean? And then it gets even more competitive. Anyway, so just that's a silly thing, and like I shouldn't care, but of course I was a struggling actor for a while, so I care.
Right.
But I mean, I feel like this character stood out in American Horror Story specifically because it's not a comedy, and yet I think Pepper allowed a little relief, you know, from all the pillage and raping that we got, you know, all season 2 and 1 for that matter, and then 3, and soon to be 4. We got to kind of little levity, you know.
Right.
There was something really endearing about her innocence and naivete, you know, in this world of, you know,
craziness.
Yeah.
And you know, speaking of that, the American Horror Story, the season 2 that you were in was really, you know, it was really intense season, and throughout the entire season, it was kind of dark and like a lot of things going on. But of course, the most talked about episode was the name game. You know, where it seemed like everything was so tense on set, and everybody was so into their shooting and their scenes that it was something that everybody got to just let loose on. And so
definitely.
What was that like for you?
I mean, that was by far the most fun day, because I mean, it was my chance to really just do what I do, because like I said, I come from comedy. This was the first time I'd done any horror. It was the first time I'd really done any real drama. I mean, I'd gone to drama school and I'd done, you know, Chekhov and Ibsen and whatnot, and, you know, theater school, but primarily I was into wearing big wigs and doing sketch and improv and whatnot at the Groundlings in Los Angeles. And so here I was, you know, it's in a totally different medium, yet still allowed to do kind of what I do. And the name game was truly like what I do. You know, it was not just like, oh, Pepper's that one wacky weirdo, you know, kind of comic relief. It's like we're all comic relief, and we got to really kind of let our hair down, so to speak. Didn't have much hair, but what I had, I let down. I do remember one of the, you know, second ADs over the megaphone speaking to the crowd said, you know, everyone can go bigger except Pepper, which is just sort of indicative. Like, I'm always sort of huge. I think, again, it comes from all the theater that I did before. I'm just always sort of like acting to the back row, and, you know, I realize, like, on a screen, you're right there. You don't need to work that hard, but, you know, you can even see like how I am. I'm kind of a big personality.
And it worked great for the Pepper character. When you were on the set for season 2, what do you think was like the greatest memory of that you'll have, that you'll take from that season?
Gosh, there was a lot of amazing memories. I mean, it was like sort of this collective, I don't know if there was like one memory. I think there was like the excitement of being on, you know, that first day on set, or maybe even the first day, the day before, when I came in to get my head shaved, and then I got asked out through a car window on the way home. Like, really? Who knew, ladies? Like, men don't care. Who knew? And then, you know, then later on set, like the next day, people didn't know if I was, you know, real or not. That was pretty thrilling. And then, of course, like I said, working alongside these major stars that I looked up to always. all of a sudden, like, Pepper for President posters around town, and, my star meter through the roof, and, all of a sudden I go online and there's a picture of me tattooed on someone's leg. Like, stuff like that, you know what I mean? It's not like there was this one thing. It was just sort of, like, exploding. Like, at a certain point I stopped. Nothing could surprise me anymore, because it's like, oh my God, this little character.
Yeah, it seems like but the character, as we talked about, just kind of took American Horror Story by storm. Now, when you obviously, since this was season 2 of American Horror Story, season 1 was successful enough to spawn a second. Did you watch the first season of American Horror Story? I
did once I was cast. I'd never watched it before. And in fact, before the audition, I called a friend who watches a lot of TV, and I don't watch any, which I'm working at. I need to get better at that. But I was like, what is this about? And he told me, but of course, little did I know, like, that, none of that helped me in the audition necessarily. Other than, of course, just like the tone of the show. It's not a comedy.
Right. It's something that's quite interesting. Now, we talked about when you were on the show. What was it like at the end of American Horror Story season 2? Like, saying your goodbyes to everyone. What kind of bonds did you have with the other actors that were on set?
Well, I know you probably want like a certain answer, and I probably can't give it, because the thing is, you never know when you're going to come back, especially on this show. Like, I found out I died, and then I worked again the next day, because it was a flashback, or because we were shooting out a sequence, or because it was a dream, or because it was, who knows. So it was definitely one of those things where I think everybody was like, we're not saying goodbye, we'll see you next week. Episode 13, and then I wasn't in it, so it was a little bit of a kind of a letdown. I didn't get a goodbye, but that's good. Maybe there'll be it keeps the door open.
Yeah, that's true. What did you were you surprised by the success of your character?
Yes, I mean, I literally, for all I knew, I was like an extra when they cast me. I mean, they weren't paying me like an extra, so I knew I wasn't an extra. But, the fact is, I was a relatively, like, unknown actor, and so why would they entrust this awesome role into, someone that no one knows? And now I know why, and that is because, if you're going to hire Kathy Bates, you want Kathy Bates. You're not going to cover her with thousands of, dollars of prosthetic makeup. And so the fact is, they needed somebody that they could totally transform, that they could convince the audience was maybe real, maybe not. Who is this crazy person, As opposed to, oh, there's Kathy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, and I think, I got lucky. Granted, like I said, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, and I was uber prepared. Like, I'd been sort of slaving away in Hollywood, wondering, gosh, why don't I get these, itty-bitty co-star roles? Am I not good enough for that? And the fact is, in Hollywood, there's sort of a hierarchy. There's, there's like background, not the background is, but you know what I mean. There's the stars, there's the guest stars, there's the co-stars, there's So I was kind of at a level where, sadly, they don't, let's face it, names sell. And without a name, they're not going to just give me a sitcom. So people at my level are usually reduced to scalpel doctor, would you like fries with that kind of roles? And I always wondered, well, why can't I even get those roles? Like, geez, like, can I get them right here? And like I said, now I sort of understand, like, I'm not supposed to get those roles. Like, nothing against those actors that play those roles, but it's a certain kind of actor. Right. Like, they kind of, their job really is to blend in to a certain extent, because they're not to upstage the star. Right. Let's face it, they're just there to take their order or give them a scalpel. And so, I always wonder, my God, like, how am I going to get a break around here? Like, I don't get those parts. Like, I'm too big, I'm too over the top, I'm too whatever. And so this was a real gem because it was a small enough role in that they were gonna give it to, you know, a non-name. And let's face it, you know what I mean? Like a big name, like a Kathy Bates, is not gonna be cool with 3 syllables an episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and yet I was perfectly fine with it. I think in a way it's almost the no small parts, just small actors sort of syndrome. Like this was a really small part, and it.
But like you said, Pepper, you know, one day Pepper was like
it became a thing,
like a phenomenon. The next day, I mean, there were pictures everywhere, and it's just like you kind of made that character. You stated it perfectly, where you said that other people on the cast, you know, that may have been other crew coming in, weren't sure if Pepper was actually a real person.
And these are not just viewers, you know what I mean? These are television people that are used to the smoke and mirrors, you know what I mean? They've all just sat in the makeup trailer themselves for several hours, and even they're, you know, have the wool over their eyes. So
and that's what I think makes American Horror Story so great, is that there's you know, the cast of characters that's on there, and the interesting thing is that, you know, the cast changes every year, so it's not like an ongoing thing like The Walking Dead or just a continuation of the previous season. American Horror Story brings, like, you know, fresh faces and everything like that. So you had mentioned earlier about people with tattoos. You know, someone had a tattoo of you. You're starting to do a lot of conventions. What is the maybe the oddest thing that someone has come up to you with, or any like memorabilia of Pepper that you saw?
Well, I do get a lot of Pepper art.
Really?
Yeah, I've, you know, pendants and paintings and tattoos, and yeah, it's really flattering. And as an artist myself, I'm so thrilled that I could inspire, you know, other people to create and play and have fun.
That's incredible. Now, we wanted to just kind of end this, Naomi, by giving you the opportunity to say something to your fan base. It could be whatever, you know, really whatever you want. You could talk about maybe what, you know, what you maybe be working on, or whatever it is that you're able to say.
Well, I can't say much. But to keep an eye out. I'm, like I said, I'm on the DL now, but I won't be for long. So you can expect to see more of me soon. And thanks for, am I talking to you? Will you speak? Can I entrust this message to you?
Yes.
Or I'll speak directly. No, thank you for all the support. And Pepper for president. What can I say?
Pepper for president.
No, I mean, it's really, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty flattering and cool.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, thank you.